Welcome to the WRW podcast, where we discuss and explore the world of women's writing. I'm Sammi.
I'm Anan.
I'm Devi.
And I'm Abhi.
Today's episode is about Roopa Pai's Taranauts. But before we get into that, we have an important question from Abhi.
Okay, so what is your favorite karaoke song? Okay, Sammi.
So my favorite song at the karaoke, I really like very dramatic songs where I can pretend to be heartbroken and like going through all of this dramatic shit in my life. And some very good albums for that are like Olivia Rodrigo, and also controversially and right next to that Sabrina Carpenter at the same time. Just very cathartic. You can sing your heart out. One of the songs is Happier by Olivia Rodrigo, where the second verse she's like very happy, and she's not happy but like kind of melancholy. She's singing, but she is beautiful, she looks kind, she probably gives you butterflies. And so it's like she's happy, but then she becomes very sad, and I think that's so dramatic, and I love that. So those kind of songs. But yeah. Devi?
I am not going to sing my part because, you know those like YouTube videos where there are lyrics on the screen and you can sing along. I always think I can do them. And when I try, I can't do them, basically, okay? If there's any song that I'd sing, just to like let everything out, it would be Misery Business by Paramore. Like, I've never been in that situation, okay? I don't know, like, what I would be singing about. If you like know Misery Business, it's kind of misogynistic. It's about this like whore who took away her man, but then she got that man back, and like it's such a fun song, and I think if I could, I would sing that song. Yeah, that's my favorite karaoke song. What about you, Abhi?
It's probably going to be like a BTS song because honestly, I love them. I think it would be Just One Day because it's so good, and it's like it's one of my favorite songs. Yeah, like ever. So yeah, that would be my karaoke song. What about you, Anna?
My sister and I used to, that one. Wait, are we allowed to promote brands? Will you like beep me out where I King sing karaoke?
I don't know how to beep people out.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. No, wait, I can mention names. Anyway, my sister and I used to like do these karaoke things when we were younger, and we'd each pick a part and we'd pick like duets and sing. And there's this one song called what was it called? It was by Of Monsters and Men, and it's called
Little Talks?
It was Little Talks. Yeah. So we used to sing that. I used to pick the male part. And also we'd also sing Just Give Me a Reason by Pink and Nate Ruse.
You and your sister are the same as me and my sister.
Same. Actually, so I can. Yeah.
I would also get the male parts.
And then when my sister wasn't around, I'd sing Let It Go like all the. That song. My entire personality when I was 11 years old was Let It Go. Like, that's all. That's who I am.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Roopa Pai is a children's author and a journalist from Bangalore. She began writing in high school, publishing articles in the Deccan Herald, then writing for kids' magazines in Delhi, then writing about Indian restaurants in London, and finally coming back to Bangalore, eventually, where she one day sat down and began to write India's first fantasy adventure series for children in English. Taranauts is an 8-part children's book series about 3 little Mithyakins that travel between the 8 worlds of Mithya: Glow, Shyn, Shimr, Syntilla, Sparkl, Lustr, Glytr and Dazl, solving puzzles and cracking clues to free the 32 precious Tarasuns from the greedy clutches of Shaap Azur. The series was published between 2009 and 2013 and has been very popular among young Indian readers, while also being very precious in the childhood memories of young Indian myself, Sammi. Now, I can't speak for everyone, but I used to just devour short novels when I was a kid, maybe like between the ages of 5 to 9. And it feels like it almost didn't even matter what the novel was about. They were just all generally like 100 pages long with a few drawings or images in between, and all of the main characters were like kids just like me. My question is, what kind of books did you guys read growing up? Or what kind of reading, even if it wasn't novels, even if it wasn't books, what kind of reading did you do growing up? And how do you think Taranauts compares? Anna?
Okay, so when I was a kid, I had this really long phase where I used to be like, I'm never ever going to read. Who reads? That's so boring.
You had that phase?
Yeah, I had that phase. And my sister used to say, read Harry Potter. I'd be like, no, there are ghosts in it. I'll get scared. That's actually what I used to say, because anyway, not that it anyway.
It does matter.
It does matter. You matter to me. Okay. But at some point, I think my dad got me this one Pink Whistle book, which is written by Enid Blyton, and I started reading that, and then I read Faraway Tree, which, I mean, it's the whole like fantasy, 3 little kids go on an adventure and they meet a bunch of people, but I think I've always been used to reading stories, especially like kid stories that I used to read, used to center around a bunch of people who discover a new world, and then they just like adapt to it really quickly because they're kids. And you know, if you're a kid, you have the imagination to just adapt to a new world and a new surrounding, and you know, just make yourself home in it. And
I don't know, I'd cry maybe.
What?
If I was thrust into a new world, I wouldn't be that.
if it was a happy, easy world where you get like new snacks to eat, and
No,
then
I'd want to go home.
you can go home also. Faraway
well,
Tree, it's like there's a tree, like your house is here, your backyard is there, you walk a little, you find this giant magic tree with like magic people living inside, then you can go play, and your mom gives you like sandwiches and stuff. You go, you play with your friends, they give you food, you give them food, everyone eats, you go to this like mysterious land that you take a ladder to from the tree, and then there's like, you know, sometimes it's, my sister was telling me that there's this one where there's this evil teacher in that land, and she like captures everyone, she spanks them because you know, like in the teacher evil way.
No, I'm laughing.
This is about a kids episode, guys. It's PG.
I can't even laugh.
Anything though.
Sorry, these are the expectations I have. Anyway.
Say about you?
What does it say about you?
Okay, guys, we have a discussion to do.
Anyway, but then my sister introduced me to this kind of. So she was saying that it's just that feeling of when you're reading a book like this, the stakes seem so low that even if it's like, oh, I got kidnapped and this evil teacher is keeping me in her school, you're just like, oh, it's okay. I mean, we'll go home in the end. But I think what's different about Taranauts in that way is that it's centered in a whole different world. But at the same time, you have so many things that are so familiar to you that, I don't know, like me reading this like a week back, I think, it made me so happy to see that I recognize the stuff that they were talking about. Like, it was like, oh, this is a different universe, but I understand what it means. And I mean, now at this point, like, I'm an adult, so I know that I'd get it. But being a kid and reading something like that, you're saying, wow, this is a whole new entire world, and I can understand it so well. It's like you are going into that different world, and then you can always come home whenever you want. And I don't know, it's just really beautiful that existed. And I also kind of wish that I grew up with Taranauts, because I grew up with like British literature, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I think. I think it's amazing, and I'm going to read every single book. Sammy, you'd better give it to me.
I will give them to you. You can borrow them. Yeah.
Devi?
I did read a lot while growing up, okay? But I read like the, you know, books which are usually associated with children's literature. No, but I hated Geronimo Stilton. I did not read those. I absolutely, oh my god, I found the narration style there so cringy and so like showy. Like the way they use like colors for like different words, like stop it. It's so stupid. I still hate it. Yeah. I only owned like one Thea Stilton book. But yeah, Geronimo Stilton, you're annoying. Anyways, But yeah, I grew up with the usual, like Wimpy Kid, and I had this like big box set of Noddy. Oh. Yeah, and I also had this box set of like all the Disney movies adapted into like books, and I would make my mom like to go to school. I did not want to go to school as a child. Okay, I would keep crying, but the only way to like get me to school was for my mom in the car. She would read out Beauty and the Beast to me, and I gave her horrible motion sickness. I'm sorry, mom, but like at least it got me to school. But they didn't.
Is what comes first.
Real, yeah, but they weren't the most important childhood kind of series for me. It's not a series, it's actually a book, and it's a Bengali poetry collection. It's called you guys know Satyajit Ray, right? Rai, I'll call him Rai because Ray is just like weird. Satyajit Ray, his father was, and his grandfather, they were both writers, specifically children's writers. So his father, Shukumar Rai, he has this poetry collection called Abol Tabol in Bengali. It literally translates to weird things. We have this weird linguistic this unique linguistics thing where we say a word and then we repeat the word, but with either like the th or the th or the t sound in front of it. So I was also like reading this one book. Okay, I'm digressing hard, but like it's this thing Bengalis do. I was reading this one book written by this Bengali like author, and he was like depicting this Bengali family's downfall, and one of the characters was talking about recession, and I was really into that book. Okay, I was like, good. It was in the college library only, and one of the characters says recession tishession, okay, like something like that. So like we say the word, we say that word against, and I don't know how to like explain its meaning. It literally just means etc, or at all. So abal tabal is that, just weird things, etc. And the only poem I remember from it is this one about this creature called Kumro Potash. Kumro means pumpkin. So he's like this big round creature, and the poem goes like, if Kumro Potash like dances, then the world shakes and stuff. And the reason why I remember this is because as a child, I was a very round child, okay? And my grandparents, they named me Pugul Potash. I don't know what Pugul means. After Kumro Potash, and they still call me Pugul to this day. And yeah, it's a nice alliteration, Pugul Potash. But yeah, that's what my childhood is. Growing up with Abul Tabul, and Taranauts really reminded me of that because it was filled with nonsense lyrical poetry, and the nonsense words in Taranauts, like it's nonsense, but it makes sense to me. Yeah, and that was so nostalgic to me. I wish I had grown up with Taranauts too. What about you, Abhi?
Okay, so contrary to what Devi said, I grew up on Geronimo Stilton and Thea Stilton because I used to be obsessed with them. Like, not Geronimo Stilton that much, but Thea Stilton was like my favorite. I had like all of her books mostly, I think. And then even now, whenever I see like Thea Stilton books in like bookstores, I'm like, oh my god, should I buy this? And I'm like, no, I cannot start reading again. But then I think I kind of went like backwards because the first like series thingy I remember reading as a child is Enid Blyton's Famous Five. Yeah. And I don't really remember like the characters. I think there was some Timmy the dog or something. But then I used to have a lot of fun. Timothy?
Something.
But I used to have a lot of fun reading that. And then I think I gradually went back to like the kids' books because first I read Famous Five, then I read Thea Stilton, then I read like a little bit of Harry Potter, but that wasn't really for me because everybody used to be so obsessed with it. I was like, I'm not going to follow you guys. I am not like other guys. And then they made us read Noddy in like class 9th in high school, and we used to read Noddy every single time we went to the library. And I was so confused because why are we reading Noddy and you're making us read like Shakespeare in class? So I kind of like digressed, like I don't know what. But then I kind of grew out of Enid Blyton and that whole phase. And I do wish I grew up with Taranauts because it's so interesting and all of the different worlds and all of the different names. It's kind of like the Earth, but then it's not. It's really interesting to me. I really wish I did have them. So please let me borrow these books.
I will also let you borrow these books.
Okay, what about you, Sami?
Okay. So kind of like I started off the question. I read a lot of books growing up. And like especially like all of these books tend to be those like 100-page things. It was like Junie B. Jones, Amber Brown, and all of the books were, for me, that my parents had just moved from the United States, brought a whole bunch of books with them. As far as our library at home and in the school was concerned, all of the books that I was reading were about white kids. And I would read just anything. But obviously, I was raised on English, and I could only read English, and anything I could get in English was generally this white kid going to middle school or primary school and fighting with some boy and fighting over some crayon, something like that. It was very fun. I loved it. And then there's this other genre of things where I was researching yesterday, and then it was like opening a memory box where I was like, oh my god, Magic Pot and Tinkle. And I remember thinking like all of these more Indian publications were generally like magazines or zines, and they had more images. And I used to think like, oh, this is so kind of childish. I used to be like, oh, it's not like real writing, you know, where it's just the words that are compelling you. It has all of these, it's so childish with all of the cutout mask and all of these activities. And so how one like lovely evening, some day of the week, I didn't know the days of the week back then, but my parents are like, oh, there's this book signing, let's go and let's see it. And we went to a Crosswords, and I remember being so astounded by, oh my god, this is an author. Like I don't know who this author is, I have not read her book, but she has written words, and then it got printed onto these pieces of paper, and that's so cool. And also, she's allowed to write with a pen, because suddenly my name is written in this sparkly green ink on the cover, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And I have not read this book, and I don't know who this lady is, but that kind of awe of, this is an author, and I've met them, was author indeed. And then I started actually reading the book, and it was that kind of novel 100-page wala vibe, but it was also this kind of very Indian vibe. And it was kind of weird that it was in between and not going to either side. I really enjoyed the puzzles. I enjoyed all of the references that I understood, and there were like competitions for like who can create a fantasy creature from Mithya and all of that, and that was fun. But it was also weird because it was in between. There was these Indian looking kids. Like, why would you write about an Indian kid? All of the book kids of the books that matter are white kids. Why are you writing about Indian kids? It was weird. And when I was a kid, these books were just fun to me, but now that I'm looking back, it feels like I was also kind of feeling like an in-between. And when I'm reading the books now, it's like I'm seeing my past self there. Like, I feel very much like Zwala and Zarpa. And I know a number of TuFANs. And who I do not associate with. But TuFAN is fine. TuFAN himself is fine. But we'll get back to this. But it was, I don't know, it was very comforting to see representations. It was very weird and challenging and also comforting at the same time. All of those are possible together. To see this representation of Indian speaking Englishness. English speaking Indianness. little mix up there. But yeah, it's great. Yeah. So there's something that interests me about fantasy writing, which is how much it derives from existing folklore or cultural symbolisms. Looking at other fantasy series that I have consumed in my childhood or recently, I'm thinking like Harry Potter, Mortal Instruments, Half-Bad, Percy Jackson, Tinkerbell, any Disney thing ever, Brahmastra, basically anything that's fantasy, and also kind of the reactions that it garners. All of this is in reference to cultural representations, usually. I think that's the difference between fiction and fantasy, where fantasy tends to have these cultural items that are either borrowed or created or mimicked. Now, about the cultural representations in Taranauts, all of us have read at least the first book and then some. like, what do you guys think about the cultural representations and the representations of Indianness within this book? It doesn't have to be like, yay, representation, we have a brown kids, or like, oh my god, that's problematic. It can be any form of how you think this might relate to Indianness. Do you guys have any thoughts? Abhi?
Okay, so when I was reading up about the book after I read it, there was this thing I read about which is called like portmanteau wordplay or something, and it's like mixing English and Indian languages, or like two Indian languages. So that's a lot. There's like a lot of that in this book. Like the Emperaza is called Shunya, which literally means like zero, and then like
Emperaza itself.
Yeah.
Emperor Raja.
yeah, and then there's this character called Shukti, which means like it's derived from like Shakti, which is like power. And then there's this this hot volcano, Kailash, which is like Kailash, like mountain. So I feel like that's the most like Indian representation that I felt like was strong in this book. Other than that, yeah, the brown kids. Okay.
I think for me, if you're looking at a lot of books that derive itself from Indian culture, I think you see a lot of like this god. That I remember reading this one book when I was a kid. Like I feel like I've read a lot of books that I don't even remember what they're called, if whether I have read them or not, or if I'm just like making it up. I don't think I'm making this one up. But there was this one book that I once read which was about like Indian goddesses or something, and it's about and this one the story I remember like very vaguely is about like some girl, and then like some goddess comes to her house, something, and she becomes her friend. Like she's like the goddess person is a kid. Like she is an Indian goddess, one of the Indian goddesses. I don't remember which one, but I think you see a lot of cultural motifs, especially if you're looking at something more Indian. I guess because it's kind of like a majority religion and all of that. So I've seen a lot of cultural motifs drawn from Hinduism especially. But with Taranauts, I think there is something like Kailash, but that's like a mountain in general. So I think that's somewhat a secular motif in... Anyway, I really like the fact that a lot of the stuff that Taranauts and in the world that Roopa Pai has created in this references, it's just very neutral cultural symbols, like the creposa, like a crepe and dosa, and you have the aquato, and it's just, I really like that because you just see a very it's this sort of representation that isn't divided by any form of like very demographic, like religion or something like that. That's something I really, really like about. And firstly, all of the food that they mention, it reminds me of Faraway Tree, because I used to like read Faraway Tree. I'd be like, I want to eat that. It's the same thing over here. There's this one, I think in the first book, they go to Zwala's house and her mom gives them some cheese flippo. No, not a cheese.
Yeah,
something with cheese. It sounded so good. Okay, I wanted that so bad.
Pie thing, which was like some gulam pie. No, it was gulab
Galum pie.
Galum pie, yeah.
And the flip boats and the born again bars, and it just it really reminds me of my childhood. Okay, it's like when I was a kid, my sister and I on the weekends we'd go to Big Bazaar with my grandpa and we'd like pick out the snacks that we wanted. And I think it's written in about like 2011, around that time, right? So yeah, I think that's the age where I was the happiest.
Okay.
So it really reminds me of that, and I think that's what, like, I really like this representation of life that you see. It's like a completely different universe, but you're a kid and that remains the same.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff. I think about the point of like kind of secular, or like it's not restricted to a particular religious or language group, the way that a number of Indian writing and representation that we had were, like with Amar Chitrakatha. It generally tends to be some religious topic. Yeah. And I think a part of that secularism does come because, I mean, there is something about writing a novel for English-speaking Indian kids. The fact that there are these many is kind of a phenomenon. Not like English-speaking urban kids are the most underprivileged community in this entire population. Like, it's clearly the opposite. But I think there is this collective sense, there is this collective community between the big cities of English-speaking kids that don't really no longer fit within their local language communities and their local cultural communities, because what they're consuming is this more global thing. It's not like, oh, you reach out to them, they need help. It's not like that. But I think a big part of that secularism is just this use of English. And even if there is another word, whether that's from Sanskrit or Tamil or from Hindi, that's being borrowed in this portmanteau fashion, you still have the English that you can understand it. And you can connect to someone else's culture or language or understanding through that. It kind of creates a bridge and contributes to this collective sense of new urban Indianness. And for a kid, that can be like really important, I guess. And also in the first book, there was, it was Shyn, right? Yeah. Which is where Zvala is from. And I think there's a part where there's like, there's 4 different provinces and they all speak different languages. And Zvala is like, she understands this main language, which is the lingua franca of Mithya. And then she also understands her own region's language. And that kind of subtle things like that of, this person knows many languages. And there's a lot of other geographical and cultural things that you need to get through. I think that was a subtle thing that stood out to me. Yeah. I could go on forever. But yeah. Devi?
I think I'm going to preface this by saying that the reason why there's no Indian Disney princess yet, I believe, is because Indian representation is hard as hell, okay? I mean, all kinds of like proper representation is hard, but at the end of the day, if you want to represent Indianness, there's just so many things you have to consider.
One monolithic thing to be represented.
Yeah. So I was thinking that, suddenly if they make an Indian Disney princess tomorrow and they make her, I don't know, they have to derive her culture from somewhere, right? So let's say that she derives her culture from South India. She does South Indian things. I would feel represented. I know there's diversity within that South India thing I just mentioned too, okay? I would feel represented, but at the same time, would I really see myself in her, like growing up with her, like just in case there was this Indian princess. Yeah, the best representation I had while growing up was Princess Jasmine. Okay, I kept saying, I'm Princess Jasmine. Yeah, like see my skin color and stuff. So yeah, that's the thing about Indian representation. Like you make an Indian like character, but would a Northeast Indian child be like, they wouldn't. Come on, like when they make Indian representation, Northeast India is like, no one thinks of that. Yeah. Even like in Never Have I Ever, before it came out, I was so excited, guys, because her name was Devi. And I was like, I'm going to see myself on screen, but I did not relate to her. Her like entire cultural thing was completely different to what I'm familiar with, and also she was really annoying, man. So I stopped watching it. She was so annoying. I just had to stop. So the thing Taranauts does, right? I think the name itself, Taranauts, Tara is Hindi and possibly like some other language. Because Indian languages, they are very similar but also different at the same time. There are like 10 different scripts.
Big language family.
Yeah, big language family. Yeah. So it does feel Indian, and also Pai kind of keeps it vague. Like there are a lot of Indian references which I'm sure that like, went over my head. But at the same time, things kept catching my attention. I think I found some Bengali words hidden inside, but I think I'm like making things up because then again, like I mentioned, Indian languages are like one big family while being distinct from each other. But I would want to like mention this one creature which she described in the first book. It's called a mean March, and March is Bengali for fish. I was like, wait, am I hallucinating? It's March. match, right? Am I being represented?
You're my mean one.
I'm your mean match. Wasn't it like that ugly creature?
What wasn't?
Okay, fine. Then I'm glad to be your mean match.
I'm calling you an interesting sea creature.
Okay, I'm glad I'm an interesting sea creature. And
Okay, let's get back.
yes, even their names. I think for a non-Indian child reading this, if they somehow get a copy of Taranauts, it would be hard for them to kind of familiarize themselves with the world. While for us, it's like almost logical, even if we don't know like a certain language. Like it's obvious that Jwala is taken from like Ujjwal or something and means light. Yeah. I think her name can be pronounced as Jwala too, because Ujjwal.
Like
Yeah. Zarpa is obviously like a serpent, a snake, and Tufan, wind. It's almost like logical to us Indians.
Also, the thing you said about the mean match, like I thought it was like machli. I had no connection to Bengali.
Isn't mean like a Tamil word?
Yeah, meenu means fish even in Kannada. But yeah, like you don't have to have the direct connection of whatever language Roopa ma'am was like deriving it from. You can just have a vague connection and kind of figure it out.
At the end of the day, I don't think you can separate Indianness from this book. I'm not saying that if you're non-Indian you cannot read it, but it was
South Asianness would also come under it to some
extent.
extent.
It would like that entire demographic. I do not know the terms, but at the end of the day, this book is very Indian.
Now, in a more fun and less general way, do you guys think specific characters are seen are representations of your personal experience as an individual? You no longer need to represent the whole of India or your respective states. Of you specifically, and also which Taranaut do you think you are? Should I start?
Yeah. I think the next mission for us is to make a U quiz, which is like, which Taranaut are you?
Oh
we
my
should work on
god!
that.
We should do that.
Are we making another empty promise to our audience, like saying something?
No. If it's a quiz or a survey, I will do it. I don't care if I have other assignments. I'm doing this on the bus.
2020 moment. Whatever, 2020 was making U quizzes, so I'm prepared for this.
We're going to do this. We're going to make this U quiz. Okay? By the time this episode goes out, it's going to be ready.
Oh, really?
Okay. I'm going to make
Don't
it.
make promises like that.
Okay. Halfway into next week, it's going to be ready. Okay? So the Taranaut characters. I'm going to think, which Taranaut characters do I think you guys are? I think Devi has some Zwala and Zwala energy. Yeah, she does have Zwala energy.
You're Zarpa.
I'm Zarpa. The only reason is I think I feel like Devi has Zarpa energy, but I have more because I'm like,
you're very level-headed too.
yeah, I would not fight with a Tufan. I would be like, he's a kid. Good for him. Devi would fight with Tufan.
I would fight with Tufan so hard. Okay, it is my time to shine. Okay.
He's
our friend. No. I finished reading this book yesterday. The first book, yeah. That's what. This is the book we are like
you don't know
talking about.
Tufan like
okay, no, but I know enough. Okay, and literally one of the things I texted Anna, because I was like live tweeting out to her. I said that Zarpa reminds me of Sammi and I love her a lot. But Tufan, oh my god. I texted Anna that he was so annoying and she was like, you don't know him or something like that. But here's the thing, okay, I see.
He gets better.
Okay, yeah, whatever. Okay, I do have a valid reason for my I'm not like I do not like dislike him. I'm just like neutral, leaning towards dislike. And here's the reason why. With a lot of these like characters, especially like these young boy characters, you know, they are portrayed as brats and the audience is kind of expected to like look at them with this sort of fondness. For example, we read Swami and Friends by R.K. Narayan in our like first semester, and most of our teachers kept saying that, oh, it's like such a fond recollection of childhood, etc., 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 and it's just they expect you to kind of make excuses for like a character who's just annoying at the end of the day. Swami was so annoying to me. Tufan is so annoying to me.
Drowning.
I know. And here's the thing. these type of concessions are not like extended to the female characters. I'm sure that if I read this book at a younger age and I wasn't, more aware of the kind of way I interact with literature, I would have hated Zwala and I would have loved Tufan. Okay, Zwala would have been that annoying, oh my god, she's so girly, like Zarpa's so cool and she is and stuff. And now it's just like, Zwala reminds me of how I was as a child. Tufan is just one of those like annoying brat boys. I do not have to like be fond of him. I'd rather like, like the characters that are actually like, I mean, Tufan is interesting, okay? There's something going on with his grandparents, which is not like, they haven't expanded on that in the first book. But it seems kind of abusive. Spoiler alert. Like,
No,
is
it's
it?
not.
It's
No,
not?
no.
Okay. Well, I
His
wouldn't know.
grandparents are nice.
His grandparents are nice? Okay. He was like scared. He was worried about like going.
He doesn't have parents. He doesn't have like the same kind of support system as the other kids have.
That's valid. Okay, but I just don't, I think I don't like those brat kind of male characters at the end of the day. Yeah, Sami?
I think a big part of that is the thing of reading it as an adult versus reading it as a kid. Right? I think when I was a kid, I don't care about if a character is a brat or something. I'll just like read it because it's a book. But I think these representations of gender are definitely a girl character written in that way wouldn't get the same kind of love, and you'll be like, why is she so stuck up?
Yeah, and annoying and useless. That's what you'd say.
I don't think Tufan is useless. I think
Tufan reminds me of what I was like as a kid. Like I was, I mean, if my sister saw me, if she read Tufan, she'd be like, "Oh, you're just like her."
No, I do think you are a little like Tufan.
Right, I do. I also think I'm a little like
because he's just like silly funny and like annoying but not annoying in a way that also insecure on this. Annoying not in a way that's like gets in the way of things. It's just like it feels sometimes like Zarpa and Zwala are just picking on him sometimes of like, and the thing that I liked was him like wearing the deodorant. It reminded me of all of my classmates, and it's like it's fine. They were just like they thought it was cool, and sure, Tufan is allowed to just think it's cool.
I really like the dynamic that Zwala and Tufan have where they literally, that's the most sibling thing.
Yeah, it's great.
I really liked reading because Zwala acts like what my sister used to act around me. That's how we were. Like she would make fun of me, and sometimes I'd just be like, "Ha, I made fun of you. I'm so cool," and then I'd realize that I had achieved nothing. Like not in a sad way. Like I had not achieved anything in making fun of her.
And then like also another thing was of like the Tufan really likes Lustr blasters and Zwala really likes Dana Santana. Speaking of which, Dana Santana, Hannah Montana.
Oh my god, I was going to talk about that. Yeah. Simply because of the fact that she likes Dana Santana, I was like, she represents me.
Yeah,
because I used to be so obsessed with Hannah Montana, and that reminded me of her, and I was like, oh my god, that's me. But then I also sort of had an identity crisis because I was like, am I her? Or am I Tufan? Or am I like Shaap Azur? Or am I like Shyn? Because I think I would have like a split personality, like identity crisis. Oh my god, am I evil? Am I nice? Also,
are you Shakti?
Anna said I was like Shakti, whatever.
I say Shakti.
I say Shakti too.
I said Shakti because I didn't realize.
So this kind of gave me like an identity crisis. So I don't really know which.
So the creature?
Which
you can be Zub.
Maybe I could be the mean march or something. I don't know.
No, that's not a character.
I'm already the mean march. You cannot take it away from
me.
me.
I am all of them and I am no one at all.
She's Zub. She's a lot like Zub. Like she'll come and like help you whenever you need it, and then you'll just be like, huh? Is Abhi a little suspicious? But then you realize no, that's your.
But I think I'm mostly like.
I have no idea.
I hope Devi and Abhi didn't catch that.
I think I'm mostly like Zwala though.
I do agree that Abhi is has more Zwala energy.
Just because of Dana Santana.
Yeah. Speaking of Dana Santana, so me and my sister, we with the help of our parents at the young age of somewhere between 9 and 13, I'm not entirely sure, we actually wrote a version of Best of Both Worlds with like Best of 8 worlds. Yeah, it was like, you got the best of 8 worlds, glow, shine and shimmer, Syntilla, Sparkl. You get the best of 8 worlds, Lustr, Glytr, Dazl, and you got the best of 8 worlds.
So smart. Man, I wish I could see your childhood.
Identity theft. But yeah, so that was also great. Yeah. But Devi, you read the rest of the books and then revise your opinion of TuFAN. This is a threat. On you, Devi. I think TuFAN is just a kid, and a lot of young boys that are reading these books are also just kids, and yeah, sure, they're annoying.
But he's not that brat.
But me as a kid, I was kind of a brat too.
I was a very annoying kid.
Kids can be very bigoted and worse than TuFAN in a number of ways.
I was full of myself, okay?
Yeah.
I had a world dedicated... No. I'm not going to expand on my
Is it because you guys are younger siblings?
Yeah.
Maybe it has something to do with being younger sibling. But kids can be annoying and they're allowed to be.
He's a younger sibling.
He is?
Yeah, he has a dada.
He is. Mm-hmm. A dada who's much older than him.
Yeah, who goes to like college or something.
Mm-hmm.
Or high school. He's like really smart and stuff. So I get where he's coming.
I get you, TuFAN. I love you, TuFAN.
You guys are TuFANies. Like
What?
TuFAN fans.
Hey,
TuFANs?
TuFANS!
Yeah.
Yes.
There's this one point I want to go back to about what me and Devi were talking about, of reading and consuming Taranauts as an adult, or any kid's book as an adult, is a very different experience from consuming it as a child. Now, I'm the only person out of all of the hosts here today that read Taranauts as a kid. Mm-hmm. So a big part of me reading it as an adult is that nostalgia factor. And it was about me not only going back to this kid, to this Indian coded kid, because they're not actually Indian, they're Mithyakins. They're from Mithya. But
and then like Sparkl goes and Shyn.
Yeah. So a big part of that was reading about this Mithyakins that's Indian coded, but also me going back to younger Sammi. And I'm curious about what you guys thought about the book as an adult reader. How it read to you, what was interesting. Yeah, Devi?
I am going to analyze it as an English student. I am ready with my notes. I am ready with my literary analysis. Let's just go. So, there's this thing which is found in most media, even children's book. As far as I know, with the children's books I've read, it's called the hero's journey. Mm-hmm. And for those of you who are unaware, I don't remember the entire thing, but there's this, it's basically a plot structure followed by like most media that deals with a hero. And there's this certain part in the story where the hero, they will face a setback and they have to like go train themselves and make themselves stronger, usually under like a superior figure who's like their master or their teacher or maybe sometimes their parents, and go back and overcome that setback. So you see this pattern in like almost all shonen anime, in fairy tales, in Greek mythology, and like I've also like, you know, one of the most early texts ever, Beowulf, which is considered as like the first known literary,
the oldest kind of hero tale.
That itself has the hero's journey. So yeah, the thing is, every narrative kind of has this certain sort of tension, which you need extra effort to overcome it. I did not encounter that in Taranauts. Okay, I did not encounter that. And like, it's not a bad thing. I'll like add on more to this later. But there's this second thing called a suspension of disbelief, where like you're reading fantasy and you kind of have to like, stop kind of looking at things in a rational way. And I had to like do that a lot. There's this one part where at the end of the book where, what's his name, Shaap Azur, the big bad villain, says, "Fools, 3 thumb-sized Mithyakins have got away with the Shyn emeralds." Like, yeah, dude, your riddles were easy as hell. Like, yeah, they're obviously like meant for children, and like, I mean, an adult. Like, at the end of the day, an adult could have handled all of this. They didn't have to send these.
And but then
but
couldn't have like gone into that.
Okay, but I'm just saying that, it's just, there has to be the suspension of disbelief, because I was solving the riddles by myself. I was like, damn, this is easy. But I wouldn't have done that as a child. And here's the thing, for a child, this would have been like very like, oh my god, they saved the world. And the lack of narrative tension, I actually didn't mind it, because Roopa Pai has this way of writing where she keeps you turning that page, okay? Like, I finished this book in like 2 sittings, and that's a feat for me. Even a thin book as this, like, man, my attention span is really short. But she really keeps you interested and keeps you reading, just the way she writes. And it's like, it's very fun. Yeah.
No, there's something charming about the way that she writes the settings and the characters. Yeah. I definitely agree, like, as an adult, obviously, once again, this is not written for adults, it's written for kids. The plot is not what compels me through the books. It's the kind of relationships and like representations of world building that kind of keeps me going through.
A big thing.
Yeah, like the little map at the front of the book, and all of the drawings of people from different places. I think that it's very charming the way that she's set up the world, and the compelling thing about the plot is how it takes you through the world, literally one world at a time, and you get to learn about new things. And I think that's really funny, even as an adult reader, especially as an adult reader. Anna?
Okay, so this isn't my idea, it's my sister's, because I was telling her about this, and you know how they have to go retrieve all these gems, like the stars, and they have to get the gems from each places to light the lamps, right? And she was telling me that it reminded her of the Silmarillion, where there's this like big bad villain who's Melkor, and he steals all the Silmarillions, which are essentially 3 gems which light up the... Wait, no. So there are these 2 trees, okay? The silver tree and the gold tree, and they have names. And they later become the sun and moon. And these are the light of that tree, of those trees, is why this whole world is lit up. And there's this guy called Fëanor, and he goes and he's like, my god, so pretty tree. And then he somehow like captures the essence of that light in 3 gems of his, which are called the Silmarils. And the evil guy called Melkor, he's like, I want that. And then lots of bloodshed, lots of people die, literally everyone dies. And then so Melkor takes the gems and he goes away, and then like Fëanor's kids, there's 7 of them, and they like take this oath, and they're like, if we don't get that, we'll die. And they all die except one.
Oh no.
Okay, anyway, that's what she said, like the whole like gem retrieving thing. But to me, I think what Devi was saying about this lack of tension, it really reminds me of Faraway Tree. This thing about there's this whole new world, when we get stuck there, we have to figure out a way to get out of there. And then we come down, we go to our friend's house, we eat a snack, and we're like, okay, let's go home. It's time for tea. Let's go eat some sandwiches. Mom will be worried about us.
Yeah, sometimes that's all you need. Yeah. This form of escapism and like a lack of this like anxiety that plays you as you're reading.
It's like you don't feel like, oh my god, these kids are going to die. Like in the beginning, I was reading this in class, not when like we were being taught, because I'm a good kid like that. But like in the middle, when someone's taking attendance and my attendance was that doesn't matter. Anyway, so I was telling Sami, like in the beginning, where they're all in that hall place where Shunya is supposed to announce who the Taranauts are, and then the lights flash on these 3 kids, and I was like, oh my god, you're sending kids? Isn't this like the Hunger Games? I've not read Hunger Games, please don't come at me.
Like 8 octons?
Yeah.
8 octons old.
Yeah, so I was like, you're sending kids to fight some guy, and like yeah, you're sending kids on this like perilous quest where they could, I don't know, like, there's that Shaap Azur guy who Shunya can't fight apparently, and he's like, okay, little kids, go rescue the world. Yeah.
Because there's that objective, they're like, objectively, he's the greatest
Yeah.
leader of them all.
Even though Shakti
And
is
Shakti
better.
is
The smartest person
objectively
ever.
the smartest person.
Yeah, why don't she
Somehow.
go and solve the riddles herself? I love Shakti, my
She helps
favorite
them.
Can we
character.
have a conversation about this of like why she can't go and help them?
She says something about this.
Oh, she
and-
doesn't have the powers or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's- they don't have the power. Yeah, but then I was like, small bachon ko bhej rahe ho. And that's it. I told Sami, I was like, oh my god, is this allowed? Isn't this like a wild
Child labor.
Real. And then, that's what I thought in the beginning. But the same as what Devi said, even I've not been able to read a lot of stuff. But this is something I kept, like, I think I sat for about 1.5 hours and I read the entire thing. And then I went home and I read the entire thing. I sat in the bus, I read another book. It just made me feel like I could read again.
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying the books we have right now are like bad or something. I'm not saying that. But this made me I felt like I was there too. As an adult reading this, I know that I think I associate it with stuff that I've read and stuff and how it made me feel, like, you know, it feels like something I'd read on a weekend when I was 9 years old. And I'd feel so happy and I'd be like, my friends and I are going on an adventure. WRW adventure when? Those
No,
are my
thank
last
you. I wouldn't want to do all this.
You wouldn't want to help us fight Shaap Azur?
Would
I'd
you be
rather
Shaap
stay
Azur?
home. Yeah, I could, sure.
She'd stay in her fiery prison.
3 of you, 1 of me, done.
Maybe
Casting
Devi was
over.
Shaap Azur the whole time.
See, she did an evil laugh.
Okay.
Also, is it supposed to be like Shaap Azur, like, you know how in English say
Oh, Shaap.
Shaap Azur,
Shaap?
like Asur.
You're talking to
Yeah, Asur
somebody
like
who does
monster.
not know Hindi. Like,
No, it's not Hindi. It's Kannada. Maybe aise hota. I mean, that's how I grew up.
I think Shaap is the word. I
Nahi,
don't know.
ha, Shaap is curse, but
Yeah.
Shaap Azur.
like
Asur, Asur like
Asur.
monster.
You know how in a lot of like mythology,
like
it's like
Asura.
Bakasur, Asur.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like that.
Like
Shapasur.
Asura. Yeah. Oh, that actually makes
What can I say?
Maybe this is connected. I guess some of the language is inevitably connected to religion.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a case for any language.
Yeah.
English is connected to.
Also, what Devi said about the puzzles, I couldn't solve most of them.
No, actually, you know the second one, I could solve everything but the second one because they mentioned something about like a small horse and then like leave your coat at the door. Okay, I thought a small horse was like a colt and then I thought that, oh, coat. The answer is coat. Like something like that. And then it ended up being 0 and I was like,
In the second book, there's
Man,
that one part
I'm
where they
stupid.
find this like one riddle, and then they're like, oh, this is an entirely new script. And I was like, oh, I'm so smart. So I like turned the book around and I could read it. I felt like a genius. Anyway, Abhi?
I think I had a lot of fun reading this because, like all of you said, it's like a book that you can pick up even if you've like gone past like reading. As in, I don't read as much as I used to, so I think this is something that could get me back into reading, and I think that's really nice, even though it's like a children's book. But it's really,
Yeah, actually,
I think it's a really fun book. The riddles are, I mean, I think as a child I would have felt really frustrated by the riddles, but at the same time I would have been like, oh my god, they're so smart, I want to be friends with them. How are they solving these? And I would have wanted to go with them. And the fact that they were all of you guys were mentioning about why would they send kids to like fight these monsters and like get these Tarasuns or whatever, I would have been really inspired. I would have been like, oh my god, if they can do it, I can do it. Yeah, you can do it. As a child. But then as an adult, yeah, I think that was child labor. So I don't think they should have been sent. But I think from a child's perspective, I would have had a lot of fun reading this. And I would have kept reading and I would have kept reading. And I think I would have reread all of the books. It was just like a very nice experience. Thank you for introducing us to this, Sami.
You're welcome. Thank you guys for reading it. And thank you, Roopa ma'am, for writing it.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Don't forget to follow us at wrw.podcast on Instagram and at wrw_podcast on Twitter. You can write to us at womenarewomen22@gmail.com. The links to all things discussed will be in the description. Have a nice day. Bye.